You're in for a longer thread here, but I bring to you Twitter Files Part 3, tweeted by Matt Taibbi last night, December 9th, on Twitter. The thread is called The Twitter Files, The Removal of Donald Trump. Part 1 takes place from October 2020 through January 6th. The world knows much of the story of what happened between riots at the Capitol on January 6th and the removal of President Donald Trump from Twitter on January 8th. We'll show you what hasn't been revealed: the erosion of standards within the company in months before J6, decisions by high-ranking executives to violate their own policies, and more, against the backdrop of ongoing documented interaction with federal agencies. This first installment covers the period before the election through January 6th. Tomorrow, Schellenberger MD will detail the chaos inside Twitter on January 7th. On Sunday, Barry Weiss will reveal the secret internal communications from the key date of January 8th. Whatever your opinion on the decision to remove Trump that day, the internal communications at Twitter between January 6th through January 8th have clear historical import. Even Twitter's employees understood in the moment it was a landmark moment in the annals of speech. As soon as they finished banning Trump, Twitter execs started possessing new power. They prepared to ban future presidents and White Houses, perhaps even Joe Biden. The new administration, says one exec, will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary. Twitter executives removed Trump in part over what one executive called the context surrounding actions by Trump and supporters over the course of the election and, frankly, last 4+ years. In the end, they looked at a broad picture, but that approach can cut both ways. The bulk of the internal debate leading to Trump's ban took place in those 3 January days. However, the intellectual framework was laid out in months preceding the Capitol riots. Before J6, Twitter was a unique mix of automated rules-based enforcement and more subjective moderation by senior executives. As Barry Weiss reported, the firm had a vast array of tools for manipulating visibility, most of which were thrown at Trump and others pre-J6. As the election approached, senior executives, perhaps under pressure from federal agencies with whom they met more as time progressed, increasingly struggled with rules and began to speak of VIOs, which is violations, as pretext to do what they'd likely have done anyway. After J6, internal slacks showed Twitter executives getting a kick out of intensified relationships with federal agencies. Here's Trust and Safety head Yoel Roth lamenting a lack of generic enough calendar descriptions to concealing his very interesting meeting partners. These initial reports are based on searches for docs linked to prominent executives whose names are already made public. These include Roth, former Trust and Policy Chief Vijaya Gotti, and recently plank walk Deputy General Counsel and former top FBI lawyer Jim Baker. One particular Slack channel offers a unique window into evolving thinking of top officials in late 2020 and early 2021. On October 8, 2020, executives opened a channel called US 2020 XFN Enforcement. Through J6, this would be home for discussions about election-related removals, especially ones that involved high-profile accounts, often called VITs or very important tweeters. There was at least some tension between safety operations, a larger department, whose staffers used a more rules-based process for addressing issues like porn scams and threats, and a smaller, more powerful cadre of senior policy execs like Roth and Gotti. The latter group were a high-speed Supreme Court of moderation, issuing content rulings on the fly, often in minutes and based on guesses, gut calls, and even Google searches, even in cases involving the president. During this time, executives were also clearly liaisoning with federal enforcement and intelligence agencies about moderation of election-related content. While we're still at the start of reviewing the Twitter files, we're finding out more about these interactions every day. Policy Director Nick Pickles is asked if they should say Twitter detects misinfo through ML, human review, and partnerships with outside experts. The employee asks, "I know there's been a slippery process, not sure if you want our public explanation to hang on that." Pickles quickly asks if they should just say partnerships. After a pause, he says, "Not sure we describe the FBI, DHS as experts." This post about the Hunter Biden laptop situation shows that Roth not only met weekly with the FBI and DHS, but with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, DNI. Roth's report to FBI, DHS, DNI is almost farcical in its self-flagellating tone. "We've blocked the NYP story, then unblocked it, but said the opposite. Comms is angry. Reporters think we're idiots. In short, FML." Some of Roth's latter slacks indicate his weekly confabs with federal law enforcement involve separate meetings. Here, he ghosts the FBI and DHS respectively to go first to an Aspen Institute thing, then take a call with Apple. Here, the FBI sends reports about a pair of tweets, the second of which involves a former Tippecanoe County, Indiana councilor and Republican named John Basham, claiming between 2% and 25% of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. The FBI's second report concerned this tweet by John Basham. The FBI flagged tweet then got circulated in the enforcement Slack. Twitter cited PolitiFact to say the first story was proven to be false, then noted the second was already deemed no vio on numerous occasions. The group then decides to apply a learn how voting is safe and secure label, because one commenter says, it's totally normal to have a 2% error rate. Roth then gives the final go-ahead to the process initiated by the FBI. Examining the entire election enforcement Slack, we didn't see one reference to moderation requests from the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, or Republicans generally. We looked. They may exist, we were told they do, however, they were absent here. In one case, former Arizona Governor Mike Huckabee joke tweets about mail-in ballots for his deceased parents and grandparents. This inspires a long Slack that reads like a Titania McGrath parody. I agree it's a joke, concedes a Twitter employee, but he's also literally admitting in a tweet to a crime. The group declares Huck's an edge case, and though one notes, we don't make exceptions for jokes or satire, they ultimately decide to leave him be because we've poked enough bears. Could still mislead people, the humor adverse group declares before moving on from Huckabee. Roth suggests moderation, even in this absurd case, could depend on whether or not the joke results in confusion. This seemingly silly case actually foreshadows serious later issues. In the docs, execs often expand criteria to subjective issues like intent. Yes, a video is authentic, but why was it shown? Orientation was a banned tweet shown to condemn or support. Or reception, did a joke cause confusion? This reflex will become key in J6. In another example, Twitter employees prepare to slap a mail-in voting is safe warning label on a Trump tweet about a postal screw-up in Ohio before realizing the events took place, which meant the tweet was factually accurate. Very well done on speed. Trump was being visibly filtered as late as a week before the election. Here, senior execs didn't appear to have a particular violation, but still worked fast to make sure a fairly anodyne Trump tweet couldn't be replied to, shared, or liked. Very well done on speed. The group is pleased. The Trump tweet is dealt with quickly. A seemingly innocuous follow-up involved a tweet from actor James Woods, whose ubiquitous presence in argued over Twitter data sets is already a Twitter Files in joke. After Woods angrily quote-tweeted about Trump's warning label, Twitter staff, in a preview of what ended up happening after J6, despaired of a reason for action, but resolved to hit him hard on future vio. Here, a label's applied to Georgia Republican Congresswoman Jody Hice for saying, say no to big tech censorship, and mailed ballots are more prone to fraud than in-person balloting. It's just common sense. Twitter teams went easy on Hice, only applying soft intervention, with Roth worrying about a wah-wah censorship optics backlash. Meanwhile, there are multiple instances of involving pro-Biden tweets warning Trump may try to steal the election that got surfaced, only to be approved by senior executives. This one, they decide, just expresses concern that mailed ballots might not make it on time. That's understandable. Even the hashtag steal our votes, referencing a theory that a combo of Amy Coney Barrett and Trump will steal the election, is approved by Twitter brass because it's understandable, and a reference to a U.S. Supreme Court decision. In this exchange, again, unintentionally humorous, former Attorney General Eric Holder claimed the U.S. Postal Service was deliberately crippled, ostensibly by the Trump administration. He was initially hit with a generic warning label, but it was quickly taken off by Roth. Later in November 2020, Roth asked if staff had a debunk moment on the SCYTL Smartmatic vote counting stories, which his DHS contacts told him were a combination of about 47 conspiracy theories. On December 10th, as Trump was in the middle of firing off 25 tweets, saying things like, a coup is taking place in front of our eyes, Twitter executives announced a new L3 de-amplification tool. This step meant a warning label now could come with de-amplification. Some executives wanted to use the new de-amplification tool to silently limit Trump's reach more right away, beginning with the following tweet. However, in the end, the team had to use older, less aggressive labeling tools, at least for that day, until the L3 entities went live for the following morning. The significance is that it shows that Twitter in 2020 at least was deploying a vast range of visible and invisible tools to rein in Trump's engagement long before J6. The ban will come after other avenues are exhausted. In Twitter docs, execs frequently refer to bots. Let's put a bot on that. A bot is just an automated heuristic moderation tool. It can be anything. Every time a person in Brazil uses green and blob in the same sentence, action might be taken. In this instance, it appears moderators added a bot for a Trump claim made on Breitbart. The bot ends up becoming an automated tool, invisibly watching both Trump and apparently Breitbart. Will add media ID to bot. Trump by J6 was quickly covered in bots. There's no way to follow the frenzied exchanges among Twitter personnel from between January 6th and 8th without knowing the basics of the company's vast lexicon of acronyms and Orwellian unwords. To bounce an account is to put it in timeout, usually for a 12-hour review cool-off. Interstitial, one of many nouns used as a verb in Twitter speak. Deniest is another. Means placing a physical label atop a tweet so it can't be seen. PII has multiple meanings. One being public interest interstitial. A covering label applied for public interest reasons. This post below also references proactive V, proactive visibility filtering. This is all necessary background to J6. Before the riots, the company was engaged in an inherently insane, impossible project, trying to create an ever-expanding, ostensibly rational set of rules to regulate every conceivable speech situation that might arise between humans. This project was preposterous, yet its leaders were unable to see this, having become infected with groupthink, coming to believe sincerely that it was Twitter's responsibility to control as much as possible what people could talk about, how often, and with whom. When panic first breaks on J6, there's a fair share of WTF-type posts mixed in with frantic calls for Twitter to start deploying its full arsenal of moderation tools. What is the right remediation? Do we interstitial the video? Asked one employee in despair. This freedom or death tweet from hashtag Stop the Steal, Gadfly Mike Caudry, elicits heated reactions. Roth groans about Caudry, this asshole, but still seems determined to stick at least superficially to rules, itching to act if this constitutes incitement. At 2:39 p.m. PST, a comms official asked Roth to confirm or deny a story that they'd restricted Trump's ability to tweet. Roth says, "We have not." Minutes later, Roth executed the historic act of bouncing Trump, i.e. putting him in timeout. "I hope you are appropriately corpsect," says a colleague. This theme of policy perhaps being stressed by queries from communications executives who themselves have to answer the public's questions occasionally appears. 2 days later, you see chatter about pulling comms out of the loop. The first company-wide email from Gotti on January 6th announced that 3 Trump tweets had been bounced, but more importantly signaled a determination to use legit violations as a guide for any possible permanent suspension. What the actual fuck? Safe to say, Trump's go home with love and in peace tweet mid-riot didn't go over well at Twitter headquarters. A few last notes about January 6th. Roth at one point looked and found Trump had a slew of duplicate bot applications. By the end of the first day, the top execs are still trying to apply rules. By the next day, they will contemplate a major change in approach. Watch Schellenberger MD this weekend for the play-by-play of how all of that went down. By January 8th, which Barry Weiss will describe on Sunday, Twitter will be receiving plaudits from our partners in Washington, and the sitting U.S. president will no longer be heard on the platform. Lastly, people on the left, right, and in between want to know what else is in the hashtag Twitter files, from suppression, shadow banning of leftists to lab leak theorists, or amplification of military propaganda or conservative accounts. We know everyone has questions, and while we've stumbled on tidbits here and there about topics ranging from COVID to foreign policy, the reality is the data sets are enormous, and we're still working through them. More is coming. Good night, all. What do you think so far, guys? Was this a coup by the FBI in collusion with big tech to remove a sitting president? If social media companies work in conjunction with the government, are they still acting as private companies? What about their fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholders? Has this been upheld? Who should make the rules? If Jack lied under oath, should he be punished, or is he exempt? Thanks for listening.